I've made videos before that focus on what you should say to your ex in order to win them back. And while a lot of people found those videos helpful, I actually think it might be even more important to know what not to say to your ex. Because really, in all of my years as a breakup coach, I've seen how common it is for people to, unknowingly say something that kills their chances. And I don't want you to make the same mistake and have to watch your ex slip away for good. So right here in this video, I will share 10 of the very worst things you can say to your ex. These are things that will kill attraction, scare off your ex, and potentially ruin any chance at getting them to come back to you. All right, number 1, you broke my heart. I've been so lonely and depressed since we broke up. Now, I realize that this might be true for you right now. Maybe you are a wreck and maybe you're still upset at your ex for causing you such heartache. But what exactly is telling your ex about those feelings going to actually accomplish? I mean, if you for sure don't want your ex back, then all you're doing is trying to make them feel guilty for hurting you by breaking up. And I'm sure that, at least in 99% of cases, that your ex already feels guilty for having to cause you such pain. And your ex probably assumes that you're struggling right now, so there's not really a need to tell them directly anyway. But worse yet is what saying this does if you do want to get back together. Like I mentioned earlier, this kind of statement sends a clear signal that you're not moving on quickly and that you're sitting around, waiting to see if they change their mind about breaking up. And even though that may be true and might sound at first like a reasonable message to convey to your ex, it is the exact opposite of what's going to make them want to take you back. You should hide your post-breakup emotions as much as possible. From your ex in particular, but also just from the world in general. Keep your emotional support circle as small as possible. Just a friend or family member or two that you can actually confide in. But otherwise, put on a forced smile for the world just to make it look like, you're not sitting around crying and you're actually a confident, desirable person that will easily replace your ex with somebody new unless they do a 180 on the breakup and ask you for another chance. By sending that kind of general statement and demonstrating that you're thriving in life since the breakup and you're quickly moving on, you're injecting, a sense of urgency that's forcing them to recognize that they'll soon lose you for good unless they change their mind and take you back. So in summary, folks, don't let your ex see your emotions. Let them see you thriving and moving on quickly, and let them worry internally about that. So avoid saying anything that suggests that you're struggling or waiting around for them in hopes that they'll change their mind about breaking up. All right, number 2, I hate you. I never want to talk to you ever again. Now, I probably shouldn't have to say this at all because I think it's pretty obvious why saying this to your ex isn't going to help you get them back. But sadly, I do occasionally have coaching clients who say something like this to their ex in the heat of the moment or in some kind of crazy attempt to use reverse psychology. Now, obviously, you shouldn't tell your ex that you hate them. And you definitely shouldn't say that you never want to speak to them again. Of course, the first risk is that they may take you at face value and never reach out again. And although that is relatively unlikely in most cases, it could happen and obviously complicate things for you. But more to the point, it shows emotional instability and shows that you were deeply affected by the breakup. And of course, as we already discussed, that's not the kind of message that you actually want to convey to your ex. In fact, you want to show them the complete opposite. So don't say anything along these lines or anything that could come across as rage bait or, emotionally charged anger. It makes you look pathetic, weak, and it's just, downright unattractive. Now, if you have already said something like this to your ex, or really any of the 10 things that I'll cover in this video, and you're worried that you've already killed your chances by doing so, please take 5 minutes to complete my free quiz at breakupbrad.com/quiz. The quiz will ask you a handful of simple questions about your breakup and your ex, and then it'll give you a detailed results report breaking down your odds of ever getting them to come back to you. It's been really helpful for a lot of my clients and subscribers in the past, so try the quiz out for free yourself at breakupbrad.com/quiz after the video. Now let's move on to number 3. Why did you break up with me? I need closure. Most of you already know that I'm very opposed to seeking closure in general after a breakup. Usually there really isn't any kind of closure to be found. Your ex will just lie to avoid hurting your feelings with the truth, or it'll just turn into a dramatic, serious talk that'll only make your ex even less attracted to you and further associate the thought of you with these kinds of, heavy, unappealing discussions. Asking for closure is especially toxic if you still hope to get back together, which probably is the case for most of you watching. It signals that you still have feelings for your ex, that you can't let go, and that your mind is running wild with all kinds of, what if scenarios. Now, strong, confident people that are highly sought after by the opposite sex don't care about this kind of thing. They're just focused on moving on and finding somebody else to fill their ex's place. And finally, this kind of question is almost guaranteed to lead to a heavy, serious discussion about your relationship and your breakup. And instead of providing you with closure, all it's going to accomplish is further reinforcing your ex's belief that your old relationship was plagued with problems and that breaking up, was the best decision moving forward. So avoid this kind of drama, avoid talking to your ex about the breakup, and, just accept that closure is just a myth. The only time I would ever say it's okay to seek, closure is if you really don't care at all about getting back together with your ex, but you just can't seem to let go and move on. But even then, be ready to be fed some lies or half-truths by your ex if they even give you any answers at all. All right, and number 4 is, can we at least still be friends? Now, I've talked about this already in many past videos, so I won't go into detail here, but really, you do not want to be friends with your ex, at least not in the short term anyway. That goes for anybody out there who's hoping for a second chance, or even if you're just trying to move on. In both situations, maintaining any kind of platonic friendship with your ex is going to do far more damage than good. Now, first of all, I realize that this seems a bit backwards. Logically, it seems that by keeping your ex around as a friend, you can at least continue to see them and maybe convince them to take you back. But unfortunately, based on my 14 years of experience as a breakup coach, that's never how it actually plays out. Instead, by agreeing to be friends with your ex after the breakup, you just end up helping them, slowly learn to live without you. You give them all the benefits of still being in a relationship with you without any of the urgency or the heartache that comes from a breakup. And more than that, it helps to further cement the image of you as a friend rather than a lover in your ex's mind. And, quite frankly, it makes you look a little bit desperate and pathetic. And of course, like I said, it also removes any sense of urgency or fear of loss for your ex. They don't have to worry about, losing you or feel those intense negative emotions of loneliness that will make them, really second guess that decision to break up. So if your ex asks you to be friends, say something like, sorry, as much as I'd like to, I don't think that's going to help either of us move on. And if you've already agreed to this, or you find yourself stuck in the friend zone, then do your best to quickly and politely fade from your ex's life with a period of no contact. All right, moving on to number 5. Hey, what's up? Now, obviously, this one isn't usually going to kill your chances by itself, but it is something that you should really never say to your ex. Don't ask boring questions that don't really demand a reply or incite any kind of emotion in your ex. All you're doing is wasting an opportunity and failing to create any positive feelings in your ex. So instead, make your ex smile or laugh. Remind them of a fun time you shared together, or share a story or an update on something interesting that they'll actually, be interested in. Don't be boring, be interesting, and use really any contact with your ex to build attraction and help change their perception of you from, my loser ex into the one that got away. All right, and number 6, are you dating somebody new already? Now, of course, I know you're probably curious about your ex's dating life since the breakup, but asking about it is essentially pointless, and it's unlikely to benefit you regardless of your ex's response. So avoid asking your ex if they're seeing somebody new, regardless of whether you want them back or not. It's just a bad idea. So, let's say that you ask your ex this and they reply with something like, yes, I have been seeing a new guy, or, yeah, I've been on a few dates with my colleague, Sarah. Now, what exactly are you going to do with that information? Obviously, it's going to be painful to hear that your ex is dating again, especially if you have hopes of getting them back. And anything you try to do or say, to your ex in regards to this new relationship or this new person they're dating is just going to be counterproductive. You can't talk your ex out of seeing somebody new. And if you actually try, then you'll just blow any shot of ever winning them back. And you still don't know if this is just a rebound or if it's a real relationship that's going to last months or years. So it doesn't really help you move on either. And if your ex says no to this question, they're not dating anyone, well, that's probably the answer that you're looking for, but it doesn't change your strategy if you want them back. In fact, it doesn't even really tell you anything about your chances of ever dating them again, because they could be lying to avoid hurting you, or they could be telling you the truth, but still dead set on moving on and unwilling to ever get back together. So really, what's the point of asking your ex if they're seeing anyone? Regardless of their answer, you don't get ahead or you don't learn anything useful. And lastly, this type of question, really any question where you're digging for more info about your ex's dating life or romantic escapades since the breakup, it sends the wrong message to your ex. If you want them back, you want them to believe that you're moving on and that you don't really care, who they see or what they're doing now. So avoid asking your ex about their dating life, at least unless they bring it up on their own for some reason. And even then, don't read too much into it. All right, number 7, I miss you and I'm still desperately in love with you. Now, really, what are you going to accomplish by saying this kind of thing to your ex? I know you probably feel like gushing your heart out to them and making them understand how badly you miss them and want them back. But I promise you, this is not going to change anything. It's not going to achieve anything. In fact, it will almost certainly do the opposite. Saying this type of thing to your ex reeks of desperation and only further confirms the image of you as a clingy loser ex in the back of their mind. It suggests that your life has little value outside your past relationships and your ex. And, really the message that you want to be sending your ex is that they've made a mistake in letting someone like you slip out of their life. I know it's cliche, but confidence really is attractive, and gushing your heart out to your ex by professing how much you still love and miss them is the opposite of projecting confidence. It's projecting neediness and clinginess, which obviously are not attractive traits. Now, there can occasionally be a time and place where you may be able to admit carefully and without overdoing it, how you still feel about your ex. But this is only once you've, reconnected, begun to hang out in person again, and started to really rebuild their attraction for you. And even then, you have to be super careful about not coming across as needy or desperate. And you don't want to make your ex think that you're struggling to accept the breakup or move on. So in 99% of situations, it's best to avoid letting your ex see your true intentions by never admitting how much you miss them or still love them. All right, and moving on to number 8, can we talk? Now, if you say something like, can we talk to your ex, what they're going to really hear is, can I try to convince you to take me back? And of course, assuming your ex hasn't suddenly changed their mind about the breakup overnight, they're not going to want to agree to that kind of discussion. You'll scare them off and you'll make your true intentions perfectly clear to see. But even more problematic is that you actually never want to sit down with your ex and have a long, serious discussion about your old relationship and the problems that led to your breakup, your future together, etc. I think you probably already know this if you've paid attention to the previous points we've discussed in the video. But to put it simply, you simply can't talk your way back into your ex's heart, especially not by using logic and reasoning to try to convince them to take you back. So what you really should be doing after employing some form of no contact is using any communication and hangouts with your ex to build attraction, to upend their expectations and to shift how they think about you. Make them smile and laugh and have fun with you. Make them associate the thought of you with happiness and an intimate romantic connection. And of course, that doesn't happen by having a long dramatic relationship talk. It happens by having fun together, by being interesting and confident, and by flirting to build attraction and sexual tension. All right, number 9, please, I beg you, give me another chance and I promise I'll change. Now, begging and pleading is one of the absolute worst things you can say to your ex if you do want them back. Again, as I've mentioned, you want your ex to think that you're moving on and that you're thriving in life since the breakup. And you don't want them to know that you're actively trying to win them back. Now, look, if you've already said this kind of thing to your ex, please consider signing up for my one-on-one coaching program as soon as possible to ensure that you don't make any more mistakes that could kill your chances for good. You can learn more about my personal coaching at breakupbrad.com/coaching. Now, before we move on, I should mention that sometimes change is necessary if you're going to get back together and have a successful, lasting relationship. But begging and pleading, with your ex is one of the worst things that you can do if you do want them back. The change has to happen internally within yourself, and you have to just show your ex that you've changed rather than trying to, convince them through words, through begging and pleading. So never, ever beg or plead with your ex, period. All right, and number 10, why are you ignoring me? So we've already talked at length about how bad it is to show any kind of neediness or clinginess or desperation. And, spamming your ex with repeated texts or calls, asking, why are you ignoring me when they aren't answering you right away? That's truly peak desperation. A confident person with lots of fun, interesting things going on in their life would never sit around waiting for a response. They wouldn't bother chasing after an ex who doesn't seem interested. And equally importantly, asking this kind of thing definitely will not increase the chance that your ex is going to reply to you. It'll just annoy them and make them dread the sound of another text or call from you. So if you've tried to reach out with your ex, more than once already and never received any kind of reply whatsoever, well, that's your signal to stop contacting them for at least a week or two. If you try to reach out to your ex multiple times using a different approach each time and you still don't hear anything back, then you need to back off and, lay low for a while. Your ex's silence is a dead giveaway that they need space. And by continuing to try to reach out, you're really just giving them the exact opposite. Okay, that's it for this one, guys. I know some of you out there watching, might be really worried right now because you've already said several of the things that I covered in this video to your ex. But in a lot of situations, you may still have a good shot at turning things around before it's too late. So start by taking my free 5-minute quiz at breakupbrad.com/quiz to see what your chances really are. And then, immediately stop any negative or unattractive behaviors and start focusing on rebuilding your ex's attraction. Of course, you can always sign up for a month of my ongoing one-on-one coaching program to get my personal help with your situation at breakupbrad.com/coaching. Thanks so much for sticking it out to the end. Please hit like and subscribe before you go, or leave a comment if you have a question or some feedback for me. Thanks again, and see you in the next video.